Good evening. I'm going to call the City Council meeting on October 14th, 2025 to order. Since it is the first meeting of the month, we do our, oh no, I'll do the land acknowledgement after the adoption agenda. All right, for the record, we are all here with the exception of Vice Mayor Anduri, who is on an excused absence. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? But I have one change. I want to remove item 16B about the Rosa Parks proclamation and put it on the October 27th agenda at their request.
I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so now we will do our land acknowledgement statement. So we acknowledge that Lafayette is part of the unceded ancestral homeland of the Bay Miwok people. The Bay Miwok and neighboring Ohlone people have lived and moved through this place for thousands of years. They stewarded it and shaped this land for hundreds of generations. We express our appreciation and gratitude for this profound legacy, which enhances and contributes to our lives to this day. We will strive to honor this land and strengthen our ties with the indigenous communities that continue to live and work in our East Bay region as our neighbors and community members. We acknowledge and honor them and their ancestors, elders, and their next 7 generations. Okay, thank you. Next, I will go on to public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Mayor Kandel, we do. We have 3 speakers in the community hall, and I don't see any hands raised in our virtual audience, so I'll start with persons in attendance. Sally Jowson.
Of course. Okay, turn the microphone on.
I'm learning. Good evening. My name is Sally Johnson, and I am the Lafayette Rotary President. First of all, as you can see from our sign, I want to thank the Chamber, the City, Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, everyone that came and supported us for Keep on Trucking. It was an amazing event. Last count I got, which was a couple of minutes ago, we had over 1,700 people show up at our event for Monument Crisis Center. And it is an amazing event that we want to really thank everyone that's in there. Also, a little bit about Rotary. Our club has been around, next year will be our 80th year, and we are the grandfather of all the other clubs. We do projects like Keep on Trucking. We support chamber events like the Res Run. We also do a concert at the Res. And the reason I'm here today is I'm looking for a few good people, or a lot of people, to help us support the community. Our club is different than the other clubs around the area. All we do is focus on Lafayette and the community. We are laser focused for Lafayette. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking for some people that would join us in really supporting this community. It could be Keep on Trucking, it could be concert at the Res, it could be picking up trash, it could be anything that, is service the community along with the chamber. So if you are interested, we have, of course, we meet on Thursdays at Oakwood Athletic Club at 12:30. We do that every week. And if you're interested, you can also go to our website at info@rotarylafayette.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Got one.
make a comment?
One question, yes.
Yes, sir.
So just for the record, I was a volunteer at the event because I belong to Lafayette Rotary. Terrific event. I mean, these 2 folks did extraordinary work in organizing this. The vibe was tremendous. I mean, I saw so many young families with little kids. It just really made me think, okay, this is just a special event. And I know the money being raised is for a really great cause with Monument Crisis Center, but just the experience of it all was just really wonderful. So great
Thank
job
you.
on that.
Thank you very much. We couldn't have done it without you, Jim.
Could have.
One more,
And
one
our-
more.
Just one more comment. Just, I guess I'll add I did visit our store as one of the sponsors of the event. It was phenomenal. Got to see Jim and Larry and others there. And it was great. Such a gift for the community. So fun. I mean, it was just, and plus it was just all the 3 and 4-year-olds just having the time of their lives. And thank you so much for
Well,
all the
thank
work
you.
the Rotary does. And I hope you get more and more members willing to help Lafayette.
And we appreciate that. Thank you. The honking of the horns, though, we're going to have to put that down a little bit because that was earplugs. That was pretty crazy. So thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to my partner. Oh, he had to be called, sorry.
That's all right. Larry Blodgett?
Larry Blodgett, 1078 Laurel Drive, Lafayette. I am here representing the Lafayette Rotary Club, or the Rotary Club of Lafayette, I think it's officially called. I personally would like to thank the City Council and the City of Lafayette for their participation in allowing us to have this event on Golden Gateway this last Saturday. If it weren't for Public Works, the police, you folks allowing us to shut down the street for a period of time, and all that, it couldn't happen. So it was a great vibe, as Councilmember Cervantes has pointed out. It was one of Lafayette's finest hours, I have to say, and I've been here a long time. And everybody, the attendees, the parents, the volunteers, the people that brought the vehicles had an amazing time. Several of them, this is our second one, when I asked them if they would join us again, they said, yeah, we had such a blast last time. I even walked around and made sure that we were good neighbors to the library folks. Mary McCosker, who's the president of the Historical Society, allowed us to use the history room as kind of our command center, thank you, and a place to get repaired after a fall. And also, I checked in with the bookstore afterwards because we impacted them last year. We wanted to make sure that we were good neighbors, and I got very positive feedback from them. We tried to be good temples with Chabad, who it was the Sabbath day, of course, and we tried to be as respectful to them as possible. We did go out to all the businesses, east and west, to let them know there would be a road closure and invited them to contact us. But again, I think it was a great community effort by all. It was great to see a number of you folks come by and have the help of Jim and also Narup. It was, again, one of Lafayette's finest hours, and I thank you.
No, thank you for everything you guys are doing for our community. Appreciate it very, very much.
Our final speaker is Eric Fonstein.
Is it on? Probably get closer to it, maybe. I don't think it's on, actually.
Is that, how's that?
That's better, thank you.
Okay, great. Mayor and members of the Lafayette City Council, my name is Eric Fonstein. I'm a 28-year resident of Lafayette and a former member of the city's Environmental Task Force. I'm here tonight to respectfully urge the City Council to adopt a resolution endorsing the Polluters Pay Climate Superfund bill, which is currently under consideration in the state legislature. This bill would impose a fee on the largest fossil fuel polluters, require them to pay their fair share of the climate-related damages caused by their products. This approach would help shift the financial burden away from taxpayers who currently shoulder the cost of these impacts. The bill has the potential to raise hundreds of billions of dollars to protect Californians, especially those in our most vulnerable and underserved communities. It would also fund critical initiatives to build affordable, climate-resilient, and sustainable infrastructure at the municipal level. Given the state's ongoing budget crisis and the increasing unreliability of federal support for disaster relief, identifying new funding sources like this is essential. This is an affordability issue. Climate change is making everyday life more expensive for Californians. Residents are paying more for electricity to cool their homes, emergency response, and disaster recovery. The state's insurance industry is nearly broken, with premiums skyrocketing due to escalating climate risks. The cost of the Los Angeles fires alone are estimated to be over $250 billion. It is local governments and taxpayers who bear the brunt of these disasters, often without adequate resources to prepare for, respond to, or recover from them. The Climate Superfund bill helps to shift some of the financial responsibility from the taxpayers to the fossil fuel companies that have contributed most to climate change. Your consideration in this matter is time sensitive. The bill is expected to be heard in the state Senate and Assembly Judiciary Committees in mid-January. Local resolutions of support will play a critical role in demonstrating grassroots and municipal backing. Many jurisdictions, including Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Berkeley, San Jose, Santa Cruz, Albany, and the city of Alameda, have already passed resolutions or submitted letters of support. However, many state legislatures remain uncommitted, and your voice can make a meaningful difference. We need your help.
So, yeah, can you wrap it up?
Yeah, I just have a couple more paragraphs.
quick.
Okay. This item recently has gone before the city's environmental task force, which voiced strong support for the bill. Given the tight legislative timeline, we respectfully ask that you consider and vote on a resolution endorsing the Climate Superfund bill as soon as possible, or authorize the mayor to promptly submit an official letter of support on behalf of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please email the resolutions and the actual names of the bills and all the information that you have? If you can email that to us,
Excellent.
we can consider that as part of our legislative committee.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay,
No additional speakers at this time, Mayor Kendall.
great. All right, we'll go on to city manager's update.
Good evening, Mayor Kendall and council members and members of the community. Just a quick update from various city departments. The senior services community was happy, and our senior services commission was happy to participate in the Community Foundation of Lafayette's Senior Symposium on the 27th of September. Jonathan was a speaker, along with La Marinda Village and New You Dance Center, and they spoke about building community through collaboration. The Lafayette Youth Commission, it's October, so they are busy getting ready for the Community Parks Trails Annual Spooky Walk. That's a mouthful. It'll take place on October the 25th and the 26th, and tickets are available on the city's website. I just want to point out that these are the hottest tickets in town, so please reserve them early. The Public Art Committee is excited to announce that the production of the first mural as part of the Downtown Mural Program will begin the week of October the 27th. And then, since your last meeting, staff hosted an open house to present 65% plans for the Connecting Lafayette project, which is the improvements along School Street and Topper Lane. The next steps will be to present to the Transportation and Circulation Commission, and then a final update to the City Council prior to bidding the project the winter and spring of 2026. And then this Thursday, staff will be involved in a hands-on emergency training. We will activate the EOC, not in this room, but at the Jennifer Russell Building. There will be a tabletop exercise, and we're all being trained by Andy Comley to be ready and prepared in the event of a disaster. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Any questions? No, thank you. That's tomorrow, right? The EOC? Oh, Thursday, great, thank you. Nice report. Do we have any public comment?
No public speakers at this time. Mayor Kendall?
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for the city manager's update. All right, well, next we'll go for the consent calendar. Does anybody want to pull anything from consent?
I'd like to pull 10A.
Okay, so 10, any others? Any members of the public, would you like to pull an item from consent?
I've had no request to pull an item from consent.
All right, so do we have a motion?
So moved, deferring 10A.
I'll second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now we'll go on to item 12A, which is the MTC's Transit-Oriented Communities Policy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start the presentation, and Councilmember McCormick has been tracking this quite closely with Vice Mayor Andori, so I will turn it over to him as well. The Metropolitan Transportation Commission, or the MTC as it's called, has adopted a transit-oriented communities, or TOC, policy, and the goal is to encourage higher density development around transit stops. Given that Lafayette has the BART station, we are subject to that policy. And although the policy is voluntary technically, funding for the One Bay Area Grant Program, or OBAG, is tied to compliance with that policy. So the policy has a number of requirements, including upzoning within a half mile of BART, increasing commercial floor area ratios, also a variety of programs to housing-related programs, a menu of programs and policies that each city can choose from. And finally, there are some requirements associated with parking. And the premise is that cities could pick and choose from these variety of programs, earn points, and if you secure 85%, you would be in the running for the OBAG grants. Well, planning staff has spent several months analyzing the requirements, and we have found that it is extremely difficult to achieve the 85% compliance without adopting measures that are inconsistent with the community's general plan, and it would require us to commit substantial financial resources to implement the various policies. The funding, it's no longer a carrot, it's more of a stick approach. You don't meet the threshold, you will not qualify. The other problem is several of the housing policy requirements, like anti-displacement measures, rent stabilization, are quite problematic and somewhat impractical for smaller jurisdictions. And finally, it's an additional, very complex and burdensome framework for cities who are already subject to, in our case, 60 programs in the housing element. This is an added set of requirements. Councilmember McCormick hosted a meeting with the chair of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and representatives from Walnut Creek and Orinda were there as well. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember McCormick.
Right, thank you, City Manager. Yeah, so we've been, as the City Manager mentioned, Vice Mayor Dury and I have sat through several meetings, also with the Planning Commission Chair Labange, to understand this kind of matrix. And it's, on the surface, it was interesting, because it basically was like a little menu. You kind of pick from, you had options, and each was weighted with points, and your whole goal was to get 85 points to get this, treatment, preferential treatment, which, for all intents and purposes, meant you actually qualified to potentially get money. But we had significant concerns. The crux of it, among other things, was it drew a circle around the BART station, and it wanted, basically, there was really no way to kind of adjust within the circle, very similar to our concerns with SB 79. And when hearing from both Walnut Creek City Council member Cindy Silva from Walnut Creek, and also the mayor of Orinda, they have the similar issues, right? You look at where the Walnut Creek BART station is, where it's right against the freeway, and half of it's high density, and half of it is no access at all, or it's single-family residential, as well as Orinda. We were all suffering from the same problems. To give you some examples of the things that we would have had to say yes to and adjust were things like parking maximums of 1 space per unit. Now, if you're in a high-rise building, you can say, well, maybe that kind of works, whatever. But if you're on a home in Happy Valley, it is kind of problematic. And there were things like that where it didn't really, it felt like the regulations really did not consider the particular kinds of geography and topography and things that we have here, not only in Lafayette, Orinda, Walnut Creek, and others. So we did have the meeting, including with the chair of MTC. There was certainly concern on her part. The entire or half of the board has turned over in MTC between the time that the policies were introduced and now. It felt like the MTC staff really took the ball and ran with it, and it hasn't really been quite the feedback with the board. So she was very sympathetic to our concerns, and we suggested, the city manager said, was it helpful for us to send a letter kind of explaining our concerns and asking that it be rethought. We still want to compete for the money. We still have lots of great projects, but we just need, I think, something not forcing us to make some pretty significant changes that would, be akin to what SB 79 was requiring, or even worse, because in some ways they're just kind of counter to building new housing because they also favored transportation and it was a very mixed bag. So that was effectively the conversations, and so we wanted to bring it to the council to see if we can get agreement on that.
Do you have any questions? So many questions.
In some respects, I feel this is deja vu all over again. So looking at the half-mile sphere, does it indicate how much properties get upzoned, or is there a new basic density threshold?
Yes, there's a density threshold, and they have some very odd, well, at least odd, my perspective about what you can count and not count in calculating your the thresholds for upzoning, but it is significant amount of. Well, the upzoning wasn't so bad. It actually didn't affect parcels that were already had homes on them. It was really more the issues with the parking requirements were a big deal. As the city manager mentioned, there's the FAR requirements for commercial buildings, which really required you had to have a minimum FAR of 2, which effectively a 3 or 4 story building, and so no commercial building is going to be like that minimum height and then up to 6 stories tall. So the whole thing just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And what did you say the density requirement was in the half-mile buffer?
What was the density?
It was 30,
30,
30 or
that's right.
35 to the acre, which works south of the
Yeah.
freeway.
Yeah, south of freeway wasn't a problem, but north of freeway was.
But it would apply to the northern parcels as well. And so if, for say, someone were to tear down a single-family house north of the freeway, would they then be subject to, any rebuild would be subject to that density?
As Councilmember McCormick pointed out, it's confusing. We were not given all the answers. It appears that you can exempt lots that already have residential, but your question, which is a good one, what happens if somebody tears down their house? I would say potentially they can upzone, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, because I saw there was also a minimum density requirement that they've also implemented. And was that close to the 30?
Minimum, we were actually fairly close to.
Yeah.
The maximum was pretty high.
Oh, okay.
So it was a similar kind of thing. It was just kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. And it was pretty clear after the meeting that the MTC board needs to weigh in on it, I think, just kind of with new eyes and look at it. And so I think our voice to kind of express our concerns, which mirrored Orinda's and Walnut Creek's almost exactly, will be very helpful.
Can I just ask about the timeline? Because you say here early 2026, I took a look at some of the agenda reports from your meetings in the planning subcommittee, and there was a whole timeline that kind of went month by month by month. Did the MTC chair give you any indication of the current status of this? It
That was
sounds like
also
that maybe the timeline
very
is changing.
concerning. The timeline was indeterminate but soon, and just as our planning department was going through, yeah, we'd almost have to have monthly meetings from here all the way through mid next year to get all these zoning things approved, and would you people be able to really understand the implications? And so not only was it ill-conceived, it was rushed. Two things that were both concerning. And then we heard like, well, maybe you don't have to worry about the timing, but then we don't want other cities to get 85 points if we don't, and then they get the money. So it's a very it felt really too rushed and too ill-conceived for something so important.
So I have a question. I mean, MTC is just famous for overreach, right? It's like, this doesn't seem legal. I mean, they're a transportation agency, and they're dictating our housing policy, our land use policies. Is that even in their purview? I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's because they're tying it also to the grant funds, so.
I know, but I mean, I can understand that they would have to have us do transit things to tie it to our transit stuff. Get a Vision Zero, that kind of stuff, right? But housing land use policy?
I suspect it's connected because of the proximity to BART means less traffic.
The justification we had heard that was brought up by the council member from Walnut Creek was that to get people to take transit more, which is the purpose of MTC, have more housing near transit. That was I think that was the link. So you have more housing near transit, which I think we can all agree is a good thing. You have more transit riders, and therefore transit is more well utilized. The challenge is, unfortunately, it was a very broad brush and not very thought out policy for how you get there.
Right. So, so what's the move forward? Do we write a letter?
Right. So the good news is the chair of MTC, who's also the mayor of Pleasant Hill, was very sympathetic. And so I think she has definitely heard all of our concerns. She heard similar concerns that I guess mentioned at the mayor's conference. And so this is just really, she's planning on doing a retreat and really rethinking the whole thing. So our letter will just help her craft the next step, working with staff. Now, there is a question like, well, what happens over the next couple of years when these grants need to be awarded? What rubric are they going to use if they don't have this one? She does not have an answer for that. But
Okay, so a letter is being crafted, and that's,
The letter will largely reflect what's in the staff report. And in addition to Chair Nowak, Supervisor Anderson serves on the MTC board.
Right.
We've already conveyed to her our concerns, and we'll follow up with the letter as well.
okay.
So I'm just kind of curious, how much money are we talking about here? Like, how much of these grants?
it is.
Within
I
the
wanna say-
past 5 years, the city has been awarded over $3.4 million.
It
So
is
it's
one
not-
of our,
not
one of our
zero.
significant funding,
Yeah.
our funding sources. And, I think we would have had some hard decisions to make, I think, if they stuck with this particular rubric, whether we would have done the zoning to get the funding, I think especially in the current situation with federal funding, whatever, it's really important, which is why they need to be much more thoughtful about this. It's too important to, I think their staff really took the ball and ran with it without.
And things like the 6 affordable housing policies, such as rent control, just cause eviction, and so on. I mean, I'd argue that you institute rent control, that would cut against any developer who wants to build housing. Is that the flavor?
Well,
of what-
and that's the kind of thing, exactly, like putting in parking minimums, parking maximums, for example, even the 1 unit per unit, one parking space per unit, as we know with the law of the building going on now in Lafayette, almost all of them have more than 1 space per unit because they realize that's actually necessary to convince people to move to them. They also, they required, potentially one of the options was reducing the expanding inclusionary housing to only be 80% of, right now we're 120 of
Median.
Yeah, now it'd be 80%. They want us to lower that, which of course would also make it more challenging for developers to build because it would make all the other units more expensive. They had a lot of things that were very confusingly, it felt like they were anti-developer as well, which was not going to help us get more housing built if we make it harder make it less less economically viable for developers to build housing. So there was very much a mixed bag of these different things, and again, did not feel very well thought out.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor Candel, you have no public comment on this item?
All right, so we'll come back. So good luck,
Well, can I make a,
please.
so I held off on my comments. I'll be honest, I read this feels like a graduate school planning seminar run amok.
Everybody got their Post-its up.
Everyone's got their Post-its up. I read this and I think that if you want to further housing, you need to do things that really further housing. And part of that is you need to see what the market is doing and relate to that. I mean, I've talked to developers here, things like, yeah, they may want to do two spaces for parking because that's the market. That's how they can sell product. It's like, I think you just need to pay attention to that. This really seems like they're off in this alternative universe that doesn't correspond to what makes housing work.
I think the mayor hit it right. This is supposed to be a transportation-centric group, and
they don't know housing.
And
They don't know housing.
They expanded the housing element with you can kind of tell almost like good intentions, whatever that's worth. But no, it completely went off the rail. There was no reconciliation or alignment about the goals toward a particular end. So
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't style myself as an expert in housing, but I know enough to look at some of this stuff and say, you know what? If you want to kill it, the seeds of that are embedded in this.
yes,
So,
yes.
And do they have kind of a one menu for all cities, all jurisdictions?
No, they did have, this is where it was kind of frustrating because I actually like the idea of being able to pick and choose from a menu of things that would make sense for us. And they had some things that were tiered, but again, the tiering was not very significant. So we were in the third tier because we were the smallest jurisdiction, but it was like, well, that means we can do, a 1.2 instead of 1.0 or 1.4. So the tiering wasn't very dramatic. So it's almost like they thought to put that in, but they didn't really think about what it would mean for a city like Lafayette versus a city like Walnut Creek or Concord. So that there could be a lot more on that. But the bottom line is like you just cannot draw a simple circle around a transit stop and just say I need just to have the same blanket policy across the whole circle because it just doesn't
Not
work.
across the
Certainly
city.
around seems like any city in Contra Costa that I'm aware of.
Well, thank you for taking this on and this very frustrating exercise on, and good luck.
so do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
Oh, we do. Okay, please.
I would move that we send a letter of concern and objection in the strongest words possible to the MTC to ask them to reconsider this whole program.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go on to item 13A, public hearing on setting fees for the Lafayette sports fields and establishing use categories. And City Attorney Sobranian would like to make a statement at the beginning of this.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just briefly make it and then hand it over to Jonathan to present the staff report. I just want to reiterate that the agenda item is for consideration of fees for the Lafayette Sports Field and establishing the use categories. Council will not be considering or discussing the use of the fields and lease agreements and/or any modification to the fields. So comments should be specific to setting the fees for the fields and establishing use categories. And I'll hand it over to Jonathan to present the staff report. Thanks.
Good evening. Good evening, Council. I'm Jonathan Kadianagi, the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Director for the City of Lafayette. And thank you, Mala, for helping to set the stage. I'll provide a little bit further detail. At its August commission meeting, the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Commission considered two items related to baseball, softball, and the fields. One was the fee item before you this evening, where we're considering fees for the sports fields at Buckeye and at Community Park. The other item was regarding the infields. That item did not need to come to City Council. It was a commission decision that we've received a number of public comments regarding, that the mayor is working with Lafayette Little League, who has put in a request to see that at the next council meeting. So we will not be discussing that this evening. There is a request from Lafayette Little League to consider it at that time. The city has 4 multi-sport playing fields And all of those fields utilize hourly rates. So the rates that are presented in your staff report at the very back of the staff report are the current hourly rates that are used for soccer and for baseball. The current rates have a higher rate that was originally set for soccer based on the impact to the fields at that time the decision was made. Every year we have to do some reseeding, and there's a lot of maintenance associated with that. There's been a number of changes over time, as you can see when we look at the market rates and as we look at the cost and impacts to our fields, where not only does soccer have these impacts, but baseball has very similar impacts. We have the fencing, we have the infield mix. There are a number of things that need to be maintained for baseball that keep that cost very similar for both sports. Currently, we do have a lease in place with Lafayette Little League where at Buckeye Field, so these are 2 of our 4 fields, they pay actual cost for their use at the fields. So while the fee for baseball is listed as $8 an hour, the true cost in 2024 for Buckeye Fields was $24 an hour when you divide all their hours up and what they're paying to utilize those fields as part of their lease. They also, in the fall, reserve time and pay the hourly rate. So they are, as a user group, have a lease agreement that pays the actual cost of Buckeye Fields. They pay an hourly rate at community fields year-round, and in the fall, they pay an hourly rate at Buckeye Fields as well. The other user groups all pay this hourly rate currently. So the hourly rates that we are considering that have not been updated since 2011 are due for update. The end of the lease is a sort of a triggering event, but we've also fallen behind. And in a lot of ways, that lease agreement has been subsidizing these rates over time. So we find ourselves in a position with increasing costs that we need to look at these hourly rates, and that's why they're here before you this evening. When you do the math in the report, I know there's a lot of numbers. We've gotten a lot of public comments about, okay, this is a little confusing. Baseball is only $8 an hour, so this big, large increase to $17, ultimately $20 an hour. When you do the math, like I said, at Buckeye Fields, they've been paying $24 an hour, but when you average out those 2 fields, you're looking at a cost to Little League right now for their baseball use of about $15.75. So an increase for that user group would look like going from $15.75 to $17 next year for that use based on the rates as presented in the staff report this evening. Along with the staff report, there were a number of public comment letters that came in today. I actually would like to address one specifically to help address some of these questions. A member of the community who's actually here this evening, actually handing in her public speaker slip right now, Nancy, who is somebody who I've actually gotten to work closely with to implement difficult change in the community with the prohibition of gas-powered leaf blowers. And I think it's great that she posed some questions for us to consider this evening as part of this discussion. She started by telling us a heartwarming story about her husband rushing down to the fields to help dry them on a rainy day, opening day for use at Buckeye Fields. And all the parents coming out and working collaboratively to dry the fields up and get them opened up for opening day. And then ask the questions regarding what happens after all this energy and good partnership that Lafayette Little League has brought to the table, what happens after these fields become public? And I'm glad that question got asked because there is a little bit of a misconception of how the fields work. We have a number of community partners that help maintain those fields and a lot of Lafayette families that come out and get to utilize those fields. And outside of the time that Lafayette Little League has during their preferential use agreement, anyone can come out and use these hourly rates. If there was a preschool that wanted to come and rent during the day, a senior group that wanted to come over and have a kickball game over at Buckeye Fields, that's always been available to anybody. So I want to make sure the community is aware that the fields are open to the public and these hourly rates are in place so that we can bring the community to the field and have the families in the community come together to utilize those facilities. Then there are follow-up questions regarding who will hold the keys to the snack shack, who restocks the snack shack, who owns and maintains the tractors. A lot of questions when there's this difficult change in the community that a lot of families have. How is this going to work? Who's going to fill the divots? Who's going to maintain the fields? And I think the answer to just about all of these questions is the same as it is now. Lafayette families will continue to help maintain and care for these fields. There are hourly rates at the Lafayette Community Park. There are hourly rates that are utilized at Buckeye Fields. The language at the bottom of Exhibit A outlines a process where the user groups are going to come together and work on annual allocations where we can work out shared use, where all the various user groups can utilize the facilities. And just as they do now, the Lafayette Little League will go to Community Park, the facility that they use the hourly rates for, and continue to help maintain the facilities before they have games. Any other user groups that were to come to the facility will have an opportunity to work with the city to improve the facilities, to care for them. Just like it rained today, we had all the pickleball users out at the pickleball courts, all out with their roller dryers, drying off the courts, preparing it, just like these parents were, just like Roger did when he got out at opening day and dried things off. The grandparents on the playgrounds today that got the towels out and dried off the playground. Lafayette families come together around these facilities, and these hourly rates will continue that for the families in Lafayette. The allocation process that is outlined here also prioritizes high Lafayette residency user groups as the #1 group that will continue to get that in-season use. So there's nothing that changes there. The groups that are of families that are supporting Lafayette residents get the highest priority in that allocation, and the process outlined at the base of Exhibit A will help us all work collaboratively to bring these policies forward and get the user groups out onto the fields. My recommendation in the staff report that is supported by the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Commission, who unanimously voted to bring these fees forward, is to adopt Resolution 2025-49 and adopt these fees and use categories. I'm here and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for the staff report, and thank you, Mala, for your statement. Any questions?
Yeah, okay.
You're right.
Go ahead. Just a clarification, Jonathan, when you said the facilities are open to the public, does that include the snack shack? Would the keys be available to any member who rents the facility?
So the snack shack itself is a facility that is typically locked, and user groups that utilize the facility would have to go through a process to be trained to utilize that facility. There is a process that you have to go through to also get it approved by the health department to have to hold as a snack shack. So that is a process we have to work out with the user groups and how that is shared. There is a model where one user group may decide to maintain the snack shack, and another user group may say, well, we could benefit from the snack shack, but we don't necessarily want to go through the process of running that snack shack. So that's something that through that allocation process, we'd have to work out. If it is an amenity that we need to come up with a shared use for, that will be designed into those allocation meetings. It also could be something that's worked out amongst the user groups where one user group is benefiting from the sales and having to run the facility, and the other user group's getting to benefit from getting to enjoy the snack shack and the camaraderie on the patio.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just, thank you, Jonathan. And you and I spoke earlier, so I just have just a couple questions. But so to understand, do you expect that the Parks Department will have to do any more work? Because you mentioned that you're still hoping and planning that the community will come in and, if their kids are playing baseball or whatever on the field, they're probably going to be, the parents will be out there kind of making sure it's in good shape. But do you expect that there'll be more work potentially for the Parks Department on this one, or are you thinking it'll be about the same?
There are several layers to that. More work from a maintenance standpoint. I can see the use being similar, the impacts for baseball and soccer. We're not necessarily introducing new sports that will change the impact of the fields in any way. I would say every year, the allocation process is a little bit difficult, even with a lease agreement in place. We are very fortunate to have volunteer-based nonprofit organizations that are running these sports at these facilities. And while every year they do come together and work out a balance in that time allocation, even with the existing model, there's always gives and takes in the fall, especially when soccer has its time and they release time for baseball. It is a negotiation process, and I expect that work to go up a little bit. There will be more of a negotiation process as we move forward with hourly rates at all facilities. But it's a process that we're already doing, and the user groups actually work very well together. So I look forward to doing that with those user groups, but that work will change a little bit. But from a maintenance standpoint, and that's going to be up to the families and what the quality of the facilities they're looking for and how engaged they stay with the facilities. And that can change from year to year too. You might have a parent who's volunteering on the maintenance side that is just the best and great with certain pieces of equipment. And the next year that parent may be out of the league, and you have to have parents that fill those gaps. So that can change year to year now.
Great. And I have one small question. Thank you. That was very helpful. One small question. There's a little section here about rink rental fees. I'm not sure what that
Yes.
changed, not changed. I wasn't really sure how that fits into this, everything else that you're talking about.
Yes, that's listed. The Parks Subcommittee asked that to be listed because there are so many requests for field use that we can't meet, that lacrosse and soccer clubs have to utilize the rink. So there are groups right now paying that $50 an hour as a nonprofit group or higher if they're a private resident renting the rink to have a piece of field on the rink and pickleball courts at the Lafayette Community Center. So we have those clubs out there playing box lacrosse and like a futsal style soccer, just to have a piece of non-grass at a higher rate.
Got it. I see. So it's not really changing. You're just listing it here for completeness.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for a really detailed report and a really good presentation. So I think, just to understand this, 2011, the rate was $8 an hour. The proposal is to get up to 20, but that's in 4 years.
Yes.
So we'll get to 2026, I guess, it goes to 17, and that's from the base rate of $8 set in 2011, 14 years ago. So that's like a 5.5% growth rate if you did the math on that. So if we had raised the rate every year by 5%, we'd be looking at basically your numbers here.
Yeah, it's basically the way that we fell behind the other groups, and then we were able to right set based on the model where we compared to those other cities. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
And then going forward, starting at 17, going up to 20, 4 years, that's 4% per year, give or take. So you're basically, the concept here is you've got these sort of kind of, I'd argue, modest annual increases built in as opposed to letting it sit there for 15 years like it kind of did.
Yeah, yeah. A better model, absolutely.
Yeah. And, I do note that we have these sort of, it's like a differential rates here. We sort of got the friends and family rate for local residents going up higher if the further away you are from Lafayette. Is that typical for jurisdictions? I noticed you had a nice survey of what other jurisdictions charge. Is that a familiar concept out there in the field?
Yes, just about every city has these rates. There's a lot of other cities that have a separate commercial rate as well. That's something that we didn't include. That's something we haven't had in the past. And we have we have one adult soccer program that gets to play on Sundays during the fall. But the youth sports, and specifically these two user groups, get just about every little bit of field space that we have, because our biggest problem, and it has been a problem, it's in our Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan, is a shortage of fields in the city. And for that reason, we are unlikely to see uses outside of what we've listed here.
And I don't want to put you on the spot here, but my intuition is that a new field would be kind of an expensive proposition.
Yes.
If theoretically we want to go out and buy an acre or two, whatever it would be, and then do everything you need to do to make it to a playable field with bathrooms and everything else. I would think we're north of 5 million on that. I don't know if there's any rough number you've got.
I'd imagine so. I think north of 5 million is absolutely correct. And our largest challenges in the city of Green Hills and Great Schools are there's not a lot of flat lots left in any lot that we look at, including the one that we've already built. And both of them include a lot of grading and challenges with drainage, which is what we're facing at Buckeye Fields right now. And we've had several slides at Lafayette Community Park as well. And another one of those things that happens, that the soccer groups come out and dig the goals out when the dirt comes down the hill, but we're happy to have those parent volunteers out there helping us.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So I'm a little puzzled. So this is about fees. And then why are you thinking that this will change the use patterns of those? Why is that a concern?
I was addressing some of the questions in the use patterns. I think if there was to be a change in use pattern, and we do have a request from softball right now, so that is the big change in use pattern that's actually happened. We, for the very first time last season, softball got to play on Upper Community Park Field. About a year and a half ago, we took out one of the grass infields and were able to meet some of the softball requests in the community. So we are seeing more of those requests that come in. We've had a number of those requests over the years as well. So Lafayette Little League actually just launched a softball program, and LMYA, who's the other soccer partner over time, has an existing softball program as well. And there are other user groups that may have interest in the community.
But without a change of the fields, well, that'd be a bigger change in the requested field times. The change of fees itself, you're not seeing that is going to be the change of use. It's more just like the other groups coming in wanting to get access to it.
Yeah, the change of fees would not impact the change of use. The fees right now, a baseball softball rate is the same.
Right.
This change of fee to one flat rate, that is a change because there were different rates for baseball and softball. Softball as a sport will actually feel the largest impact. The current softball players pay $8 for their first season, got to that one season, pay $8 an hour, and that's all they were paying was $8 an hour. And they'll feel the largest impact in the change in rate if that goes up. Whereas our current baseball user has been paying a much higher rate because of that agreement.
Okay, thank you. That helps. Any other questions? All right, so we're on to public comment. I imagine we have a few.
Okay, the city council is taking public comments on item 13A. Currently, I only have 2 speaker slips in my hands, and I'm assuming there's more people in the audience. So if you would be so kind as to deliver those speaker slips to me now so that we can keep this moving along, I would appreciate it very much. First speaker, Nancy Hu, to be followed by Roger Hu.
Good evening. Do I just start off? My name is Nancy Hu. Do I need to say my address? It's already written on the thing. I was going to read off my public comment, but Jonathan so keenly explained essentially the story that I outlined in my public comment. And I think it was so great that you answered a lot of the questions that I had in my public comment. But I still had, I guess, the kind of nagging sensation that that having the fee structure change and having people come in even for like birthday parties or something to rent the facilities could potentially lead to a deterioration of the fields. I myself am not a baseball person that grew up, playing Little League, so this is all kind of new to me as my 2 boys who are now in the hallway have started playing baseball. And I've come to respect a lot of the the care and all of the people and all the effort that comes into taking care of these fields. And I've been very impressed with Lafayette Little League. We've rented from the community center for birthday parties before. We live in a downtown condo, so our space is very small. So we use our community spaces a lot, and our public spaces are very important to our family. So I worry, like, and we've done this before, gone to the schools and we've seen broken glass, or we've seen things that you don't want to see in a public space. And so I wonder, like, if you were to go to Buckeye and somebody had rented it the night before, who's to say they don't actually take the bases off of the fields? Or what if somebody did have a raucous party the night before? Who's actually going to police or enforce? I'm all about enforcement, right, with the stuff that we've done together, Jonathan. But, just having, all that ownership, it feels like is going to go back onto Parks and Rec. And so I feel like that's a big burden for them. And it's just hard to believe that Lafayette Little League would necessarily take on a lot of the maintenance that they're still doing right now, if there are also a lot of other people and organizations using the fields. That's basically all I had, so.
Appreciate that. Any questions? Oh, thank you for speaking.
Roger Hu?
Hello, City Council and Director Katiaki. My name is Roger Hu. It's a hard act to follow for my wife. But I want to also sort of give a little bit more context besides just the usage discussion. I'm an engineer by training. I'm a Little League coach. I serve on the board to help with evaluating kids. And I spent some time looking at the financial implications of this proposed field use structure. Because I actually have access to the schedules and games and tournaments for last year's field usage at Buckeye and Cheney. I wanted to see how this will apply under the new system. And what I found was somewhat concerning because one of the reasons this usage model changes the incentive structure is that Lafayette Little League used to operate under the lease model. And so they would obviously ask for more hours than what necessarily we would use it for. And so what I found was that our real field usage, and I have this whole spreadsheet, was about 1,250 hours. And I know Jonathan did a lot of math to figure out that we probably asked for 1,800 hours. And so in my estimation, that actually will result in a net loss of $20,000 under this new model. Because again, it was a lot of calculations based on hourlies that we were allocated, but obviously if Lafayette Little League no longer has a preferential lease agreement, it means that the number of hours requested would actually be optimized around this structure. So in other words, I'm saying is that there's, a different incentive model that happens under this new model. And so I know this, the Parks and Rec's proposal is also to raise the fees on Upper Com and Lower Com, which would potentially offset that. But I also wanted to point out a key issue is that Lafayette Little League already invests heavily in the maintenance of Buckeye and Cheney fields. It actually spent, I looked at this last night, that we spend over $20,000 on landscaping costs, thousands of volunteers hours to keep the field safe and playable. And so my question would be, under this new model, where in some ways Lafayette Little League was entrusted as the caretaker, of these fields from February, especially to August. And I know I read through the lease agreement that it also said that Lafayette Little League was responsible for helping reimburse the city the costs. Where is that cost going to, come from? Is it still expected for Lafayette Little League to invest that much money into it? And so, the question I'm raising with you is that this model isn't just a price structure change. It's actually a change in how the city operates those fields, because, since these fields were transformed in 2004, my time is done, but it's a major departure from this 20-year partnership. And so I wanted to call that out too. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any questions for the speaker? So actually, I do have a question. So you're saying that the Little League invested $40,000 on maintenance from February to August for just Buckeye Fields?
Buckeye and Cheney, there's $20,000 that's spent on just landscaping.
Oh, 20, not 40, 20.
Well, the 20,000 is what I'm pointing out to you is what in the new cost model would look like under the current utilization patterns.
Right, the 20,000 is the increase you think of fees that Little League will have to pay with the new fee schedule.
No, I'm saying literally that the number of hours that was calculated based on what Lafayette Little League pays comes out to $24 an hour. What I'm saying is if we actually optimize for the number of hours that we'd actually use the fields for, it would be a lot less. Does that make sense?
Okay, sure, all right. But then how much did you spend on maintenance?
Spend $20,000 in maintenance.
$20,000 on maintenance, okay, all right, great. Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyway, one second.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
So just so I'm clear, in a year, or is that last year? What's the time frame?
Last year.
Last year?
Yeah.
20,000, okay, thank you.
Final speaker, Dan Emerson.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. I don't do this very often, so I'm just kind of jumping in here because I'm an impassioned father of 3 boys. I've spent countless hours myself with Roger out in the fields, prepping the fields, maintaining them. I've joined the board as well to really try to help and be supportive and create a special environment for our kids. I was listening to the speakers earlier and hearing Blodgett's and speaking about the Rotary of 81 years of longevity and commitment to our community. Lafayette Little League's been around for 61 years doing the same thing. And over the last 20 years, Lafayette has been a steward for those fields, committing their time and energy every single week, not just in the spring, but in the summer, in the fall, creating an opportunity for our kids to have a great baseball experience. I personally, with this whole possible shift here and changing the structure and maybe disrespecting that longevity of those relationships that have been in place, it doesn't feel very characteristic of the community and what we have here in Lafayette. And it's disheartening in some regard. In my perspective, I do feel like it's almost in a way, it may not have the intended benefit of having, a kumbaya with all the parties coming together. I think you actually splinter the community even more so because this field is a place. It has a sense of home and community that really bring people there. Everybody looks forward to going to Buckeye. I'm looking forward to bringing my boys back to Buckeye after they're finished with their program. I think it's just something that needs to be, in the same way Lafayette has taken traditionally, has really evaluated methodically decisions and not been rushed to judge. I think it needs to merit an evaluation that takes time, that's deliberate and intentional. Thank you.
1 second, anybody have questions? I have a question. So in here, I'm hearing that people think that if we do this feast and maybe have less use for the Little League, are you concerned that the quality of the fields will go down? And can you give me a comparison of the quality of the Buckeye field versus the other community fields that you guys play on?
I would say that the community field that's played out for the advanced baseball program and Cheney and Buckeye are the same because the same parents maintain them. Every single Sunday, I was out maintaining and dragging fields myself.
But what about comparing them to the community fields that the kids play on too? Because you guys use the other fields as well.
I would say in comparison, the fields that are not maintained, upper comm, and I would say also the school fields are probably the same and they're unsafe, they're unreliable, balls bounce irregularly. I've seen too many kids get hurt and injured because of a lack of maintenance. And I think that's something we joke about it when we've taken kids up to practice at upper comm, but the reality is it's not being maintained. It has the wrong soil up there, wrong dirt, and ultimately if you can handle an upper comm bounce, you can handle pretty much anything because I've seen my son had a broken nose from up there. So I mean it's stuff that does happen, and that's a maintenance issue that again I don't think that is fully appreciated of what it means to put the time in. I mean I think Roger's mentioning hours. I think we spend something in order of 3,000 hours a year supporting these fields and the broader program. It's a lot of commitment.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Next speaker, Joe Doherty.
Hello, Joe Doherty, Camino Colorados. I am the Parks Subcommittee Chair. I would like to commend staff and their work on this project between the Parks Subcommittee and the PTR Commission. Very well detailed and very well thought through and presented and reviewed by the public as well as the PTR Commission. Hence the reason the proposal you've got tonight is a 9-0 vote in favor of this proposal. The other thing I would like to say is that this is not about Lafayette Little League. This is about public fields. These fields are for all of Lafayette. For 21 years, girls softball has not been allowed on Buckeye fields. I have 2 daughters. I had a son that played Little League baseball. I've coached them both. The experience is 180 degrees different between the two. All we're asking for is let the girls play on Buckeye. That's a simple question, and the PTR Commission agreed with the way the data was presented to us. So with regards to fees, this needs to be a fee discussion only on what is equitable for the city and how much they're going to subsidize the baseball fields and the sports fields. Because in Lafayette, we have multi-use fields. So to have a baseball fee, softball fee, and a soccer fee doesn't make sense when the city is responsible for the field year-round as a multi-use field. So our field fee needs to be for field use, not sport use. That's all I've got for you tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? No, that was helpful. Thank you.
Mayor Kandel, I have no additional speakers.
Okay, we are done. All right, anybody have any comments or additional questions?
I just made additional questions first.
Yeah, questions, please.
Yeah, great. So I thought speakers were good. It was very interesting. So I guess a couple things. How do you expect, so are you expecting this is going to be kind of revenue neutral to all the money that we're capturing, or how is that going to, because you must have done the math to kind of figure it out. Because I saw you kind of did it too, well, I definitely saw you did it kind of top down, I suppose. You looked at the average of all surrounding cities to kind of figure out what they were doing. So I mean, you must have modeled something to kind of figure out what we're going to be. So how are we going to look for the kind of revenue side for the next 4 years?
Yes, so we looked at it several different ways. This is based on market rates, so we're aiming to catch up with the market rate and sort of protect for inflation as we have this increase. So and lower impact to the user groups as we have this ramp up to the $20 an hour fee. The idea of the 1,250 hours versus 1,800 hours is something that we did take into consideration. We had a general idea the Lafayette Little League was utilizing the fields for less time than they reserved the fields for. There's a little bit of protection built into this in that the off-season rates for Lafayette Little League are higher in the fall, so there's a chance to make up some of it in those out-of-season costs. So they could choose to request more time as they always do in the fall. They there's a balance that's worked out between those two user groups, and then they'll also have to consider how much time they'll want to reserve throughout the year. They've been great partners in helping maintain the facility and reserve more time than they needed. But then there's also opportunity for other groups. If there's more time reserved than they're utilizing, there's other user groups that have requests and have wanted to get onto city fields that haven't had an opportunity. So there's a chance that there will be revenue gain through that part of the process as well. But we did account for some protection in that if they reduce their hours, we'd be able to make up for some of those revenues. So we did see this as a revenue neutral option.
Okay, and then to follow up on kind of a theme, I think that we heard from a couple of the speakers here, plus the letters that address this particular issue, not the issue we're going to talk about in 2 weeks, was about, I think Lafayette Little League feels a very, protected status. They feel very protective of the fields. They're kind of, certainly what we're getting is, they're doing a lot kind of above and beyond because they feel it's, I'm not going to say their field, but certainly they are kind of, it's a reflection of their organization. So they're doing more, perhaps above and beyond. If we go to a more, I'm not sure what the correct word is, but now it's kind of like hourly and everybody kind of gets the same thing. Are you concerned that there's going to be kind of less above and beyond work and just the minimum done by the groups to, basically just get the fields just to C+ condition instead of an A condition because they don't feel quite the sense of ownership? And how would we manage that?
I do have a lot of faith in the Lafayette families and volunteers from these organizations that will come out and work together to utilize the fields. That was one of the reasons I wanted to address Nancy's comment in knowing that there are passionate parents that play baseball, there are passionate parents that play softball. I'd expect both groups to come out, but there's a little bit to work out getting the groups to work together. That's something that we do out at the rink between the sports user groups that go out there that are playing pickleball and hockey and soccer and lacrosse and all those various uses to take care of those facilities. And each user group utilizes the facility in a different way, but they do all work together to keep it in a great condition for everybody to enjoy. So I look forward to working with those user groups and sort of managing that process and working with them. But I also would expect that the city will maintain a very good foundation for those user groups. We have always worked with Lafayette Little League to make sure that we work together to order the things that they need as far as the mix and to do the improvements that we need each season. Those get billed back to Little League currently as part of the lease, but in this sort of cost-neutral model where we don't expect the revenue to drop as long as we have the partners that are still out there reserving the facilities, we'll still have the funds to go out there and improve the fields that we need in the way that we need to improve them. And if the user groups want to come forward and have suggestions regarding the improvements, we've always been happy to work with those user groups to continue that process. If they are concerned that as a group they will bring forward less of those improvements because they're sharing, that's something that would have to be worked out amongst the user groups that are sharing that facility. And if we can find ways where they could work together to put those improvements in place so that everybody can benefit from them and enjoy those improvements, that's something that our department would be happy to work with them regarding.
And a final question that I can, sorry, is when you did surveys of the other cities here in your survey, do the other cities deal with it this way as well? It's more like the groups all get together and kind of decide versus a preferential lease, or can you just explain a little bit how do you know how the other cities work? Are we an outlier one way or the other?
Yeah, I don't know of any other cities that have had a preferential lease in place, that same sort of agreement. There are several cities that use this field alliance model where the user groups come together and some of them actually form separate nonprofits where they work together to allocate field time and raise funds for those fields. So this model where the user groups are coming together as an alliance to benefit the facilities is one that we've kind of put our toe in the water on field alliance and the direction that it could go. And these are user groups that have worked very well together in the past. There's an opportunity here for them to continue that process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. I kind of want to segue from Councilmember McCormick's comments, I think. So this is a different pricing model because we're going from the sort of a lease structure, albeit with other groups using it on an hourly basis, to all hourly. If I understand that right.
The hourly rates are already in place. There is an expired lease, and we haven't brought forward an extension to the lease or a new lease. It would be right now, because there is no lease, it is expired. This would be in all groups utilizing that model because that's all we will have in place. Okay. So there is a change there in what's available. There is just that one user group during that one season that utilizes that lease agreement. Everybody else has the current hourly rates.
Okay. And in terms of then, I mean, there's I haven't done the math on this, like how many hours there are to use the fields, but there's a number out there. Mm-hmm. And there's different groups that would want to use that. So the allocation of that between the local team, so to speak, and then some of these other outside parties, that all has to get sorted. It seems kind of a complex way to do it. It's like a linear equation, I guess, but is there a handle on how that gets done? Is that something that's run through Parks and Rec? You do it, or is it a consortium? I'm just kind of curious how that gets managed.
It will be department staff working with the user groups and liaisons from the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Commission to go through that allocation process. Traditionally, we've only been able to take really 2, then last season 3 user groups. The requests were such that we weren't able to consider any other groups. There was a concern regarding birthday parties. I can't think of the last time we were able to offer a birthday party out on the fields, just because the youth sports user groups have the fields reserved year-round. Outside of the time that the fields need to rest, they are absolutely utilized. And I'd expect the same, where we have these other rates in the event that for some reason we can negotiate time, and that's a process that we could go through, where we go to the user groups and say, hey, especially the summer use where leagues may be out of town some weeks, we can negotiate some time that they're otherwise reserving, or they may not reserve the hours as they've stated, to sort of balance for what they need to do, and that might actually open up the opportunity to use some of those other categories.
Okay. And then in terms of, like, in the memo, you talk about the base cost, $325,000 in 2011, $550,000 this year. It's at the bottom of the first page. I mean, I'd look at that and say, gosh, if the fee structure didn't change since 2011, we're underwater here, so to speak, or is it? So this model tries to get us to break even, I gather?
Yes, yes.
Whereas
Well,
have we been sort of subsidizing this from the general fund before? Is that really what's happening?
and we'd had the lease before this that protected us for real cost. So we've had that, and this will move us to a more of a cost neutral. The fields will still be subsidized. We don't and will not collect enough revenue to be cost neutral. We're not full cost recovery on those fields. But it will basically maintain level of service. That's what we did with the half-cent sales tax, right? Was we went out to the community, put in an ask to say, hey, can we maintain this level of service? We won't be able to take on new projects, but we're facing this structural deficit. And that's sort of what this is asking. Can we instill rates that maintain this level of service and account for some inflation and sort of keep the ship afloat as we work through working with the user groups to get these uses out there in with the end of the lease and a need to catch our fees up.
Okay. Thank you.
So one last thing is I love the concept that you believe in the Lafayette, parents taking care of the fields and everything. But we've heard from basically everybody here that the Buckeye fields are better. Just hands down, they're better. And so that actually concerns me quite a bit. I mean, I would almost go for higher fees so we could maintain our fields better, right? Was that ever thought about? Because I'm concerned about that we aren't maintaining our fields as well as we.
And any concerns, I guess the concerns regarding the other fields, Lafayette Little League has been the primary stewards of those fields until just this last season. So any of the efforts that were put into those fields from a baseball standpoint was the result of the Lafayette Little League volunteers working with the city. Mm-hmm. There was, when the mix went in at Upper Field after the infield came out, there were concerns that the mix wasn't exactly what they needed it to be, and it's something that we do hope to address. We'd like to get it to the perfect 70-30 mix. That's right now we're looking very closely at our budget and how we can stretch our funds to get all the things done, the commission's requests regarding the mound and the grass, as well as whatever we could do to get the proper mix delivered to Upper Field. Mm-hmm. That's something that we'd like to do to get that field to a place where there's more pride in it. But the Lafayette Little League has been the primary stewards of those fields over time as well. So it really comes into, like I said, volunteers change. I guess as the kids get older, maybe they're putting in less effort for for the maintenance and care and going out there, or putting more on the youth to maintain it. I would say if you look at lower community or even upper community and compare it to a lot of fields around, these are still high quality facilities that are better than a lot of, I want to disparage any of the surrounding communities, but if you haven't been up there recently, they're still beautiful facilities that are very playable and very well maintained.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? What do you guys think?
Well, I would say I would echo your last point. Was actually I was kind of pushing a little bit on the are we about being revenue neutral? Are we getting a little more? Because I will admit, I'm worried about that. I think there's, we hope for the best, and presumably once we kind of have the new model, the parents are going to come in and put just as much love into it. But like, well, if they don't feel quite the attachment, will they put in as much effort? And do we need to compensate with additional staff? I do worry about that, and I guess the whole thing I'm thinking is, I think this year, whatever, if we decide to do, I would actually probably look to get an update and a status report a year in and figure out how we're actually doing. Because I think a lot of this, I think you're making good assumptions, but we just don't know. And so I think a year from now, it wouldn't surprise me if we need to come back and say, we're going to need, are we going to need higher fees? Because we really do need to have dedicated more ground staff than we thought. Or is it working out because we now have more groups that have a vested interest and everybody's putting more time in, and then it was great. I just don't think we know. So I appreciate a 4-year plan. I would hate to say, well, we're just locked in for 4 years, we can't do anything. I would imagine we should do anyway. I would imagine really after a year, let's, okay, how did this past year go under this new model?
Yeah, could we do that? Is that something we could do? Mala saying yes?
Yeah, that is something that could be brought forward. I also, at the bottom of page 3 in the staff report, note that this is a rollout over 4 years to get to the current benchmark at the cities around us. So we're trying to lessen the impact to the groups, but there is this concern that if inflation continues, we may have to bring it just because of that as well. So I absolutely took that into consideration, and want to make it clear to the community that we want to try to bring this forward with the least amount of impact, but we could have to come back if for some reason we weren't able to meet those maintenance needs, or if costs went up significantly.
I think just in general, I think we want to hear back in a year how it went, right? Kind of just to make sure that we have a yearly review of these things, because it is a new model, right? So it might be helpful.
And we've been talking about the operating side of the equation. There's the capital side too, though. And I know we're going to be talking about capital improvement budget later in a month or two or whatever it's going to be. But you and I had a chance to go look at the fields Friday. Beautiful setting. They're really lovely. But you talked about the mix. There's certain things in there where if we were trying to bring the fields up to a parity, there's probably a capital number that goes with that, I would think.
Yeah, there's a capital number for new projects, and there's a capital number for maintaining what we have. We know and have been talking about $650,000 project for the patio at Buckeye and the drainage improvements that are required over there. And then anytime we're looking at new fields or an opportunity for new fields, there's going to be that capital cost as well.
So there may be another discussion, maybe one more on the capital side with respect to the fields. Like, what do we need to do to bring them up to comparable standards in terms of amenities or just the quality of the field itself? So, okay.
Yeah, I did leave out in my examples about drying the slide and drying up the pickleball court. I left out putting the bucket under the drips in the community center where the roof was leaking.
That's coming back to us soon here.
I'm surprised you did.
Happy to have our community members there and apologize for any time something comes through the ceiling.
Yeah, that's what the police are dealing with right now.
Yes, that's true.
All right, so do we have support to adopt this resolution? I'm feeling pretty, we could take a motion or?
I guess I'm just going to, so I am, I really feel for the amount of work that Little League has put into this. And so I understand it's going to be a new model. And it's a model we have success with the old model. There is a new model, so I feel for that. I am looking, I think, a 9-0 PTR vote is compelling. This is 9 people who studied carefully and unanimous on that, so that's significant.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess I'd say this all seems really rational and thought out. I really respect that. And I also do recognize PTR and the time they spend on that, staff has spent on that, and my inclination is to go with what the recommendation is. And I do like the idea, though, let's take a look at this in a year and see how it's all worked out. It's a different model, different pricing model, and we really want to make sure it works. And also, later on, look at the capital side.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Jonathan, for all the work you did in the analysis in looking at surrounding cities and then also the current uses with the city fields here. I agree, the Parks Trail Rec Park Subcommittee, I'm sure, put a good amount of thought into this as well, analysis. I respect their vote. I do think we should come back and look at this in a year and see where things went. I also really appreciate the community, the parents and community members who devote time to upkeep city property. It's really remarkable, wonderful thing in our community, and I'm grateful for that.
Great, and the fee increase and the change of model I know is necessary because the lease is gone. And the new uses, like if we change the fields, that would be a dramatic change to the use models. But that's not what's being discussed here at all tonight. This is simply the fees. And so supporting a fee structure that is more equitable and more consistent with the other local cities is something I can support too. And please bring it back next year. Do we have to put that in the resolution? I know we'll need a motion, right, but before we take a motion, do we need anything in here?
You don't need to.
Okay, great,
We'll note
thank you. Just making sure. So do I have a
I
motion?
move approval of Resolution 2025-49.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Great. Now, we will move on to, item 10A, removed from consent. Thank you, everybody who showed up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so John.
Yes, my point was on, I'd like just to amend the minutes. This is on page 30 of the minutes, paragraph 3. It says, Councilmember McCormick said this is why he thinks the condition could prescribe the solution and defer this to staff for privacy through some mechanism. And I'd like the minutes to be reflected to say that the conditions should not prescribe a solution and defer it to staff to figure it out. And that's it.
All right, any public comment?
No public comment on this item?
Great. So take a motion to,
I move approval.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Great, now we'll go to council and commission reports. We may have to close that door if they're too loud out there.
Well, I'm happy to start. I was able to attend the second annual La Miranda Village Sip and Savor last week, I believe, the event that they do for fundraising or whatever. A tremendous event. It was well attended. They had this great silent auction, lots of wine, a bunch of restaurants around the community came and kind of had little bites that people could eat. And it was a tremendous event. La Miranda Village is just a great organization, and it was fun to see them in action. This was their second one, and last one was quite well attended. This one was very well attended. They are just bursting the seams there in the Jennifer Russell Building, which is a good thing to see. So,
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I have a report. I went to the East Bay Regional Park District Director's Study Session 2 Fridays ago and spoke on behalf of spoke to encourage the prioritization of repairing the trail by Lafayette Creek and Lee Creekside Park and the bridge by the gazebo park. I had a chance to speak with the Deputy General Manager afterwards and also their Director of Capital and Construction. And they said that the reconstruction funds are allocated. It's 1.9 million, that it's in the current capital improvement program, and that the project is undergoing permitting. And that's where they didn't want to give any commitments about dates.
Okay.
And that the the funds were sufficient for everything.
Wow.
The bridge and the trail.
That's exciting.
So,
That's big news.
That's big news.
Yeah.
That's, I guess we
I
believe.
know,
what we
yay.
said.
hold them to it, right?
Open to it. Yeah, I'll pass on. At the last week's Emergency Preparedness Commission meeting, we had a pretty robust conversation about the fire that was off of Pleasant Hill Road.
Oh, yeah.
The Friday before. Some good insights there. Chief Bachman of Confire will be at the next meeting to kind of talk it through more in terms of like what happened, lessons learned, and so on. When I was at the Keep on Trucking event, I saw one of the firefighters from Station 15 went up to thank him for being first on the scene. So they really, I think, it was a feel-good moment for a variety of reasons, but the fire went up, was dealt with pretty quickly, effectively. And there were some great pictures, I think, that came from you.
My husband.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
He accused me of flying a drone.
well, remarkable pictures with my iPhone 8. They couldn't compete with those, but I think it was well covered all around. So we'll learn more, I think, at the next Emergency Preparedness Commission meeting.
Oh, great, great. And please bring back the thoughts on what happened, because that was wild.
And I'll note that there's something that's kind of come out with respect to the Los Angeles fires in January, sort of like a beginning of a digest of that. I think our city manager passed it around. Yeah. So,
Okay.
On lessons learned.
yeah, I think this is a season of lessons learned here. And hopefully we can when we get into the next fire season, hopefully we're like that much further up on what we need to do.
Got it. And I was at the league meeting last week at Long Beach, and you guys didn't miss much. The general consensus were that the sessions were not very, it was not an exciting group of sessions this year. And that was clearly not my own, but it was lots of people saying the same things. The biggest thing I came back with was at one of the fire sessions is that a city, it was Grass Valley, I think, that said it. They got magnets for every resident, refrigerator magnets with their evacuation zones on it. And I went, huh. So that was like the most important thing I brought back. So, sorry. But it's not a bad one, yeah. So if we want, we can keep submitting. I know friends that submit topics and they never get picked, like RENA reform and helping with housing elements and things like that a lot of cities have a lot of concerns about, and they don't get picked. But anyways, that's it. All right, written communications. And on the request from John Fazel, the coordinator of the American Discovery Trail Society. Is this why you guys are here? No, okay, got it. So we have a proclamation recognizing the 25th anniversary of the 3/4 Century Club celebration on October 21st. And that is actually, I spoke with him at the Sunrise Rotary, and he is so excited about this. It's all the people that are 75 years old and above that get invited to this event, and they've been holding it, and he is just one of the proclamations. So we have this, and we will make sure we get it to him. So any comments or, oh, okay, good. So we need a motion. We need a motion to approve.
So I'll happily make a motion to approve the proclamation recognizing the 25th anniversary of the 3/4 Century Club celebration on October 21st, 2025.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And that is it, because the last one has been removed from the agenda. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned officially.